Hello, my name is Madison Martin, and as you can see, I'm in one of the study rooms at the CSN Henderson campus. My speech topic was assisted suicide, and my purpose today for my speech is going to be to persuade my audience into believing that assisted suicide should be legal in the United States of America, as it is in some other countries. The source that I'm going to cite verbally in my speech is going to be an Oxford Dictionary, but I'm going to cite other medical trials as well. But the one that I'm going to give it as an example in this assignment is that Oxford Dictionary defines assisted suicide as suicide with the assistance of another person, especially the taking of lethal drugs provided by a doctor, for the purpose of a patient with a terminal illness or an incurable condition. So if a patient is diagnosed with a disease that has no cure and they're going to be dying within the next 6 months, then they would then invoke their right to die. So my three main speaking points are going to be how the process works, requirements that need to be met for a patient to invoke their right to die, and the pros that come with invoking their right to die. So how the process kind of works is that the doctor is going to give the patient a sedative first. After they've said kind of their final goodbyes to their family, they will give them a sedative, and that makes it so the patient doesn't feel any more pain that they need to. They've been in pain for a really long time. They don't need to feel more by being awake while their heart is actively stopping. Then the doctor will then go in with a lethal amount of a drug, and they'll inject it into an IV, and then that will slowly stop their heart until they stop being alive and their heart stops beating, and they will be then declared dead. And then the patient passes away, and after their family is their prerogative what they wish to do with their loved one. Requirements that need to be met for a patient who invokes the right to die is that the patient has to be over 18 years old. So unfortunately, this is not, a right that is allowed to minors, but I really hope that there's not a lot of minors who are going through an incurable disease, but our world is not perfect. I know that's a reality that we don't live in. The patient also has to be in the correct mental headspace to be able to declare that this is the path that they wish to take. So someone who's mentally incapacitated is not allowed to invoke this right. If they cannot speak clearly and if they cannot write that they wish to take their own life, then they are not allowed to. So they have to say it more than one time to multiple physicians, and within 15 days of each other, and then they have to physically write it down that is their expressed wishes. And then they have to be evaluated by multiple doctors and given the same prognosis that their illness is terminal and that in the next 6 months they will be dead if they do not choose to take their fate in their own hands. And then the pros that are coming along with their right to die is that it ends their pain and suffering. Is first and foremost, these patients are going through the unimaginable that we don't want to go through, and they're living through what we can only imagine to be the worst pain possible. So to end that pain and suffering is by far one of the greatest pros. And it allows them to die with dignity. Some patients start to mentally lose themselves and lose physical capacities. They are literally bedridden. So to end that suffering and kind of that humiliation that comes along with it is another big benefit. It removes a financial burden off of a family after the patient passes away. Life-ending care and prolonged stays in hospitals are not cheap. I know. I have been in the hospital for multiple days. My father has been in the hospital for multiple weeks at a time, and that financial burden is one that a family cannot handle, especially with those whose prognosis is probably 6 months or longer before they're about to die, that is going to be millions and millions of dollars in medical debt just for them to lose their loved one in the end anyway. Another benefit is that their organs can be harvested and donated, which saves hundreds and hundreds of lives every year when people make that choice. So that is another pro. And it's a more painless and less traumatic death for the family and the patient. The patient isn't suffering, and the family gets to say their goodbyes without being caught off guard that their loved one suddenly dies and they weren't there to say goodbye. It's on their time and their schedule. And then the patient is in control of their own fate after having a disease control their whole existence for however long they've been diagnosed. And then to wrap it up, my conclusion would be, imagine being in a life full of pain and suffering and being told that your only option is to get to a point where the damage is so severe that your body finally conceded to the suffering. Assisted suicide is a way to give that control back to the patient after having every bodily autonomy taken away from them by their disease or illness. Where does our humanity lie? Are we allowing these people to suffer and taking away every option that they have? Assisted suicide should be legal in the United States and allow these people to die with dignity at their own hand. Thank you.